Jack.
Levi.
The Book Club from Hell.
So today, I'm very, very happy to have Phil Roth on the podcast, author of the recently released micronovel called The Raft, as well as a number of stories on his Substack. I think it's at Phil Roth, like R-O-T, as well as some short stories published in Tales of the Unreal, Minimag. Anywhere else where you've had things published?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, just besides some zines people might find lying around. I like to make little zines and just put them in odd places.
I do also want to read out your previous works as stated in the beginning of The Raft, because there are some other works by Phil Roth available in bookstores everywhere, according to The Raft. There's That Hideous Rash, The Classic Summer Hobo AIDS Needle, A Night Inside Santa's Wet Bag, the thing that got you nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature.
Right.
It looks like I'm writing a novel, but I'm really leering at the Asian woman with a fat ass wiping down the table. The tables, plural.
Tables.
The Plot Against My Dick, Human Suffering, and the ever enigmatic Shell.
Right.
Yeah. So I should give a bit of a rundown of The Raft, because even the front matter of the book is part of the joke, including even the copyright, where you're saying, oh, you can take bits out of it if it's for a cool review, and otherwise you're not allowed to repeat this. So The Raft is, you say it's a micro novel, so it's super short. I don't know how many thousand words it is, but it's very small. There are parts of the book where you say you're going to add in blank pages, and you do. It feels, was that just to make up the page count for Amazon KDP to let you print it?
No, I really wanted to add extra blank pages to it.
Oh, so it's more environmental terrorism.
Yeah.
Concerted effort to rid the world of trees.
Well, I wanted something. I wanted to leave a mark in a way, and on the reading public, and I thought that just saying that there's blank pages and then putting them in would leave a mark on the reader, and I feel like I've achieved that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really aim for a narrative arc in these sort of interviews, so I'm happy to say, just straight up, I recommend this book. It's really, really funny. Also, just with the length, like everyone listening, just pick it up. It'll take you an hour or two to read, depending on how quickly or slowly you go. It's very, very funny. So it's the general premise is, because I don't want to give away too much of the increasingly bizarre plot, because there are so many jokes in it that are a real delight to come across yourself. But the basic setup is Jimmy and little Billy, upon their father's death, decide to take his raft out to sea. I won't even say which sea it is, because that was also something that made me laugh. And from there, things get increasingly bizarre. It's a story of political tensions, of miscegenation, of discovery of your family's past and coming to terms with that, of encounters with creatures from the deep. There's a lot here. The more I say, actually, the more I realize there's a lot compressed into it. But what was your inspiration for The Raft?
No, I had another book that I was really slaving over, working really hard on, and just like going over editing. It was like a extreme horror novel, because that's a genre I really enjoy. So I had this one based on an ex, and it wasn't very much different from what actually happened, but but then it was just so hard, and I just put it down. I'm like, I'm uh, I'm trying really hard here for something that's not coming naturally to me. And when I think about rafts and people riding on rafts, and then it all just kind of came to me. This
And
book will be called The Raft, and it will
mm,
be about rafting.
in terms of your influences, so before recording, you mentioned a bit about how you were really inspired by H.P. Lovecraft and Thomas Ligotti to begin writing again after a hiatus. Are,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
one
no,
are they influential on the Raft? Because I guess if you there's I don't know if you call it cosmic horror, but there's definitely a Lovecraftian love for tentacle monsters.
yeah, no, that's there, and that's the thing is, I like that's the kind of stuff I read on my own, cosmic horror stuff about existential terror. And for this one, for when I was writing it, I feel like that seeped into it, to some degree. Um, I've tried to write stuff like that, and it's all fallen on flat on its ass. Uh, so I just stopped trying to do that and just wrote, what came naturally to me. And so I think a little bit of that gets in there. And there's the tentacle beasts in the water. I love tentacle beasts in general. So I wanted to put those in there. And there's like some little Lovecraftian elements to it. But yeah, it's hard. It's sometimes hard for me to see the influence exactly there. But that's all I read,
Mm.
basically. So, and then this is what I write.
So, do you read any comic writing? Because looking at the things you've published, there's probably stuff I've missed, but the things I've read have all been really funny, and you've got a pretty particular type of really really absurd humor. A lot of linguistic or gags based on the voice of the narrator, which is very strong in the Raft. And you'll crank up the southern drawl to to comic effect where appropriate.
Hmm.
But yeah, your other things like Pollywog Summer or Billy Madison 2 are
Hmm.
very funny. But yeah, do you read any comic writing at all, or is this actually just how your diet of cosmic horror is expressed when you try to write things?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of what I write is a reaction to things that are serious. I don't watch any comedies or read any comedy stuff, um, per se. Like there's some things like the books you guys cover, that can be considered kind of comedy, like Call of the Crocodile
Mm.
or and other such things. But yeah, no, it's those things that are really serious in life and in movies and in books that I end up, finding funny.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I feel like these pieces are just kind of reactions to that stuff. Like Pollywog Summer, I saw this movie. It's like a romantic movie, coming of age, I think from the '90s, called The Man in the Moon. And I watched that, and afterwards, it's just that story came to me, the Pollywog Summer one. So I get a lot of inspiration from things that aren't supposed to be funny.
Yeah, I can sort of see that. I'm trying to piece together how you've arrived on this particular type of comedy because it's very particular to your works. Because I guess finding humor in quite serious things, there is a lot of that in the Raft. Again, I'm not going to spoil particular jokes because listeners should definitely read it and experience it for themselves. But you will often get something that's ostensibly serious and either you talk about it in such hyperbolic terms that it becomes ridiculous, or with a sufficiently absurd authorial voice, or just very, very confidently stating things which are plainly incorrect and then just continuing to do so for the entire book and refusing to budge.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a sense of humor you just have in your day-to-day life, or is this only expressed through your books?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like how I see the world, or
Mm,
like
mm,
sometimes while I'm sitting there, like I said, I tried to write like serious stuff at times, or at least darker things, and I just end up wanting to make fun of myself. And when I read, authors that are, like Hemingway, or I can't think at the moment who else, but I'll read these authors with very prestigious, catalogs, and I just, as I'm reading it, I'm making fun of it in my head, and it's not
mm.
because I don't like it. It's just because I don't know. That's just my reaction to it, is to kind of make fun of it and think like, oh, oh, it'd be so funny if they just suddenly said this and ruined everything, all these great words they just wrote, and they just added something really stupid like a chapter that's one word long, or getting in an argument with themselves,
Mm, mm.
and then I
Got to
do
say,
that when
the
I'm
Sherman
writing.
chapter is the high point of the Raft.
Yes, yes, that was one of the first. That was one of the first things that I decided on when writing it, is I'd have a chapter like that. I don't
Look,
want to spoil that chapter for anyone either.
exactly. If listeners are fascinated by the Sherman chapter, they should definitely track down the Raft by Phil Roth, available on
Yes.
Amazon. Is there anywhere else to get it other than Amazon? Is it
Uh,
me saying to
that's
get it on
it.
Amazon
That's really
the
it.
right
I
thing to
wish I
say?
could do like I could sell like signed copies and stuff like that, but I just haven't. I don't know if I want to go through the trouble of setting up a website and all that sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
for now, yeah, go through Amazon.
Look, also considering there are already pictures in the book, I think it would be completely on brand if you just had like a JPEG of your signature, or what is allegedly your signature at the start of the book.
That's a
Sold the
good
Raft for
idea.
a as a bonus edition for an extra $5.
That's a
An
good idea because
inescapable bonus edition. There is no other edition,
yeah,
but it's still more expensive.
no, yeah, because that's the same thing. Ink from a pen or from a printer, it's the same thing essentially. So you're getting the same value.
Yeah, yeah. You're still getting that sense of moral victory of owning the bonus edition of the Raft.
I like it.
You should
I
definitely
might do
do that.
something with that. Yeah.
I have it on the author's authority that the Raft is only going to be below $1,000 for the next 3 days after this episode's published. So people better buy it.
Yes. You ever go on Amazon looking for a book, and it's just one copy and it's $3,000?
Mm. It's I've had that experience a few times when either it's an extremely niche book, and yeah, there'll be one used copy for an absurd amount. What really pisses me off is when there'll be print on demand books and they'll be like $200. That's when it's particularly mystifying. I found out Routledge has done it a few times. There are a few Routledge editions which are just like incomprehensibly expensive, despite the fact that they're printed using the same technology that like my book is printed on. Maybe I should just
Right.
start charging $500 for copies of my book.
And then you don't have to sell as many.
Yeah, exactly. Then I can say that my sales numbers are low because I'm only selecting for the most aristocratic readers who will pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a print on demand edition.
That's what it's like trying to get Ligotti books sometimes. They'll try and sell them to you for like $130, and they'll do this limited edition, special prints and stuff. And I've fallen for it a couple times, but
It's
when
particularly
you
funny
think about it, hmm
because someone like Ligotti is so of that pulp scene,
yeah,
that his books have gone from pulp to selling for hundreds of dollars.
yeah, they're like works of art now or something. But you could listen to all his stories on YouTube. for free too. But I guess it's just owning that. I don't know. They get into the binding and the
Mm.
materials and the paper and all that, and it seems just really silly to me. That I don't know. I'm trying to think about what would be a good reason for. Well, you could resell them 5 years later for a lot of money. Uh, but yeah, I don't really get into that stuff. When I see books being, special edition books like that being first, that's just, I'm not the market for it, but someone is.
Mm. I can see the appeal. I guess the problem is I can see the appeal, but I never act on it. Like I'm also not really the market for that. I am looking forward to the Raft though, the edition printed and bound on sea monster skin.
Oh
That's
yeah,
something I'm really looking forward to.
I would do
Raw,
something like
untreated
that.
sea monster skin. You have to read it before it decays.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
would
I'm
definitely put something out like that, just because I'm not into that doesn't mean someone else isn't.
doesn't mean someone else won't buy the Raft
Yeah,
printed on a piece of rotting kelp.
oh, that's a good idea. Or print it on a raft.
Yeah, you actually have to buy a raft with a 12-foot mast. With
Man.
no, I was wanting to say what is printed on the sail of the raft, but I won't because that was another very funny reveal. It's
Yeah, it worked out really well too, because when he meets the 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 bread tuber at sea,
yeah,
he kind of
V.
points out, the hypocrisy of owning a sail with that printed on it.
Was V based on a certain horse loving YouTuber?
I
I
mean,
don't,
now that you mention it, there's a lot of similarities.
because that was I'm trying not to spoil things, but that was the first person I thought of. The equine enthusiast left wing YouTuber.
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, I can definitely see someone drawing a lot of similarities between those characters. He's such a Vouch, who we're talking about now. He's such a personality. I'm almost kind of sad that he's gone now.
I just don't keep up with him enough. So like I've just learned that he's gone.
It's like
Um,
that's when you realize, just how I don't know, like whether you agree with someone or not, some people are just they're so obnoxious that you learn to kind of, you see like the higher game they're playing, and it's just I don't know, it's interesting. In one ways it was fun watching him, crash and burn so spectacularly, but now it's like, well, is he going to come back and do that again, or is
he
that the
wanted to keep
last we've
performing for you.
seen him crash and burn? It seems like I don't know. But people can come back from some really crazy stuff. Like I'm kind of predicting with the Destiny thing, he'll probably be back and fully operational. I mean, like 6 months from now.
I think if you're sufficiently shameless, you'll just keep plugging away. People love watching a train wreck.
Yes.
So if you actually don't mind being humiliated, then yeah, I'm sure he could just reappear.
Yeah. No, the community will forgive him,
Either
I
forgive
think.
him or just keep enjoying the spectacle of someone else imploding. Imploding and making a great deal of money by doing so in public.
Yeah, I think that's some of my favorite stuff to ingest, is people who can, it's almost inspiring how they could keep crashing and burning, keep blowing apart. But then when you do it enough, you set the goal. So, you know, like someone like, are you familiar with Ethan Ralph?
Is um is that H3 man, or is that someone? No, no,
No,
that's not.
yeah, he's
I'm
another
demonstrating
guy.
my poor knowledge of internet personalities.
Oh yeah, no problem. This is knowledge normal people shouldn't have generally.
this, this is the esoteric Necronomicon knowledge of the internet age.
Yes, and when I was getting really into politics and stuff, and it still sometimes it draws me in, but what stuff like Ethan Ralph or these people on the internet that make buffoons of themselves. Not saying Ethan Ralph is a buffoon or anything, but the people that do, it's such a good palate cleanser from all this other stuff, that draws us in and gets us all frustrated, and is watching someone just totally like burn out in front of all our eyes, and then they keep going, they keep kicking, and it turns from something like a car crash into something really inspirational in a very dark way, because you don't want to do the things these people do.
Mm,
But then when you have your own kind of crash and burn scenario, you want to believe that there's hope afterwards, and that you're strong enough, to rise up from that and keep
mm.
going.
Yeah, that you too can rise like a phoenix from the ashes
Yeah,
if you just completely ignore any sort of social intelligence, any sense of decorum, and just double down on your bad behavior.
it's very Jungian. It's it's yeah, the unification with the shadow, and just being like, yeah, I'm that guy.
Destiny is doing shadow work in public. That's what he's doing.
He is, whether he even knows it or not. It's his shadow is like steering the ship now.
Yeah, yeah. I think there is something to be said for the internet existing, or not even the internet, but particularly social media existing as some form of possession, making
Yeah,
making you do things that you definitely wouldn't otherwise do. And just because it's mechanistic that you see viewer numbers going up or likes going up, you get a nice dopamine squirt and continue to do whatever makes those things go up at the greatest velocity. Sure, there's a mechanistic explanation, but I still think viewing it as possession, or as the sort of unleashing subterranean currents in your unconscious, the shadow taking over, is
yeah,
a useful way of considering it.
yeah. And I don't know, you touched on something I've been thinking a lot about interacting with the internet. Is that whether you like it or not, the kind of feedback you get, if you like a certain kind of feedback but don't like another kind, it will really shape the kind of output you have on the internet.
Hmm.
So I see these people, that like are I'm going to talk about YouTube a lot, but these YouTube talking heads or figures or personalities that maybe they started out more left leaning, and then when they start doing the pandering to the right, like they start, kind of edging that way. And then when it's just like overwhelming support, like it, and then you see them kind of like becoming just basically, fully on the right or fully on the left, because their audience just drives them that way. And there's
Hmm.
no, it's a force too great to try and combat, and like, or if I publish something, that if I were to publish something and all the comments were just like, that's disgusting, how could you, da, 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 that's going to shape probably what I put out next. And I mean, there's certain stuff that I don't mind doing, and it's cathartic, but like an audience can really push you in subtle ways, that
Hmm.
you're not thinking about. So I try not to, engage with it too much when I do it, but I'm getting a lot of positive support for what I'm doing now, but I have to be aware that like, I can't fully, try to like please an audience or subconsciously start pleasing an audience, because that will drive me somewhere, like some of these personalities online, to somewhere I don't really feel like I belong. So anyways, yeah, no, I think that the internet possesses a lot of people, and there's a lot of places you could go with that. This kind of centralized node where everyone's plugging in and having their mind altered.
If you're trying not to hear too much feedback, I guess, how do you know when something's funny when you're writing? Like, are you just writing to make yourself laugh, or do you have someone you're showing these stories to and seeing if that person laughs, or getting people on Substack saying, "Oh, what was it? Shadow Man, your Shadow Man story."
Yeah.
Like, someone read that and say that's funny. How do you know when these things are funny? Because at least for me, all these things really land. Um, Sh- Shadow Man is great. Having half your story is 20 like Sigma male tenants of the Shadow Man, and telling a story through that, I thought was very very good. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. How do you get a sense for what works?
Well, it's funny, the Shadow Man, like I mentioned earlier, like you read something serious or I read something serious and my reaction is to poke fun at it. And I was going through Beyond Good and Evil, uh, and it just came to me. I was like, this is hilarious. Just his it's just he's so self-serious about these
Mm.
concepts, and I couldn't help but think of like Shadow the Hedgehog writing this, or as like an avatar of this
Nietzschean
lifestyle.
Shadow the Hedgehog. I did not see that coming as an influence.
So things like that. And yeah, no, I am trying to make myself laugh most of the time, so they're all like kind of jokes on myself. A lot of it's poking fun at my own beliefs on things, and then some of it is just yeah, just as I'm writing. If I'm not having fun doing it, I'll go back and erase it all, um, or I'll start, deconstructing what I'm doing until it's something funny.
Yeah, and in terms of editing, like how many or how much editing did you do on something like The Raft? Because there are a number of long running gags and things that initially, like, like if someone reads it, this isn't really a spoiler because it appears so early. But the similes, like a whore, something something something. The narrator just keeps dropping in these, and initially you kind of don't really notice, and it just keeps happening, and you just push it so far that by the end of the book, every time you pull one out, it's really funny. But how much during editing were you constructing these sort of long running jokes and making them sit, and how much did they just emerge during your initial drafting process and you just let them be?
Yeah, no, a lot of it happens during editing because I'll be reading certain parts and get bored, and then I'll say, okay, I want to remix this part, and I
Mm.
want to add something here that's like, because if I'm, yeah, no, I get bored easily when I'm writing or even when I'm reading, and I'll just have this. I'll want to inject something into it. So the editing process, there is a lot of different stages to that. I Part of it was getting rid of 16 chapters I had originally written after chapter 3. This whole thing where he goes to Haiti and becomes the Prince of Haiti. That's how it was originally going to go. And then I was reading it, and I was just so bored with that direction. I scrapped it all. And then there's other sections I scrapped and then rewrote as well. And so by the time it comes out, it's when I have to do it really quick, or else I'll get bored with it again and have to rewrite it again.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, it's good to edit your stuff and get all that, fine tune it and everything. But on this one, I had to just put it down at a certain point.
That's interesting. Yeah, because it feels very effortless, the writing, but quite often that sort of effortlessness only comes about because someone's obsessed over it for a long time.
Yeah, I did put a lot, it's a small, yeah, like I wanted to pack a lot in a small package and have something for someone like me who starts to drift off a lot while I'm reading stuff. And it's not because it's a bad book or because it's not interesting concepts, but just my mind will start going somewhere really fast if I'm reading something. So I just wanted, uh, yeah, something really tight, small, that that you don't lose your interest in it as you're
Mm.
reading it. Because that's what I like in books. I've been reading nothing but like novellas and short stories and stuff, and I love those things. So I didn't want to go too long with this one.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something to be said for a book that's done really, really quickly. Like there are actually plenty of the books I really do like. I feel start to drag. I mean, I love J.G. Ballard is one of my favorite authors,
Yeah.
and his very best books actually almost always start to lose steam at the end and really drag. Like
Yeah.
Crash and the Atrocity Exhibition, I think are fantastic, but both of them, after like 2/3 of them, I think you've really explored having sex with cars, and you can probably move on now.
Well,
It's
have
also with
you?
Crash because it like he starts at. I'm pretty sure it's Crash where he starts by like a guy drives a car off an overpass into a bus full of people and ejaculates all over the dashboard, and it's like, okay, well you've started at 11 out of 10 in intensity, and don't really know where to go from here. Um, so yeah, there really is something to people trying to write extremely short works. It's like the Raft. If it went for much longer than it does, it probably would have been too much. But just given how absurd it can get, but it's it's so short that you just enjoy that sort of absurdity the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's one while you were talking, there's this one Ballard book I read that was so good, and I was just looking it up really quick. It's Concrete Island. Have you read that
Yeah, that
one?
was one of the ones where he reined it in. It's short.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah, that it's such a good Ballardian concept as well. Just crashing onto a traffic island and being stranded there.
Yeah, that's what I like in stories is when it's like going to the essence of what fantasy is being
Mm,
placed in this situation that makes no sense almost. That one makes sense because but it's just such a weird he has these weird premises that he just forces you to accept.
mm.
Like in High Rise too.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that stuff. The only thing is I couldn't imagine what the concrete island, like my brain couldn't map out what that area looked like, that he couldn't escape out of, but yeah, that's one I read recently that really that's a good one.
That's the most recent Ballard book I've read as well. And one thing I like about him, it's very characteristic of him how all of the main characters are weirdly flat,
Yeah.
somewhat affectless, and strangely without motivation, and are always just completely consumed by the logic of a car or a high-rise building or of a traffic island. And you as the reader are just sitting over their shoulder without really seeing into their head and watching them come to accept this alien logic that you don't really get.
Yeah. It's funny. It kind of almost sound a little autistic the way you describe that, like someone being really obsessed with a car, really, you know what I mean?
Right, it is
That's
just
all they could
autism.
focus on. He should do one on trains.
Yeah, do it on trains and machinery.
Yeah.
Model trains. Yeah, JG Ballard on model train sets.
Yeah. I could see him doing something good with that. The Atrocity Exhibition, that's one I've been meaning to read. Do you recommend that one?
Yeah, I recommend it very highly. It's from that mid period of Ballard where he was writing things like High Rise and Crash and Concrete Island, where he was at his meanest.
Hmm.
And the Atrocity Exhibition is exhausting because it's written as a series of, he called them condensed novels, where it's just, it'll be a novel boiled down into a few separate paragraphs. It's a series of these back to back with characters with similar names who will occupy similar positions in the story. So there's one called like Talbot, Talbert, Traven, Travis, and they're always doing similar things in similar but not the same locations. It's very, very disorienting. And then he'll just have the odd story about, I think there was one, Why I Want to Fuck Ronald Reagan,
Hmm.
which is actually predicted Reagan's political career.
Yeah.
Um, it's it definitely suffers from the usual Ballard problem of, by the end of it you're pretty ready for it to be done because you've definitely yourself been enfolded into the inner logic of whatever's going on in the book, but you've had enough.
I
But
felt
it's
like
very good.
that. I felt like that with High Rise, actually. I read that one not too long ago, and I felt bad because I was digging it so much, really enjoying it. And then all of a sudden I was just I stopped caring about the High Rise
Mm,
and
yeah.
stuff falling off of it. I'm like, why don't I still want to finish this? I've done that so many times where I'll read a book up until like the last tenth of it and I'll put it down and I won't ever finish it. And that was one of those too, where
Mm,
I could really recommend it to people because it's really good, but I can't say I've actually finished it.
yeah, you just lost the desire to kill dogs in the swimming pool.
Somehow.
Somehow, yeah. One thing I was wanting to ask you about actually is how do you develop your narrative voice in the Raft and then your short stories, because that's consistently it's a source of some real laughs in these stories. Like in the Raft, there's this increasingly overbearing and ridiculous sort of southern folksiness to it. I found Pollywog Summer probably has the most similar voice to the Raft, but then you have other stories which have other but similarly ridiculous voices. Do you sit down and try to develop these, or do these particular turns of phrase just start falling out as you're drafting something and you lean into it? How do you get to this?
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, and really, I can't, when I've tried to write like straight up horror or weird fiction or something like that, it's so hard because I can't come up with, I need to have like a voice kind of possessing me and doing the writing for me, or else it just doesn't come out. And so, yeah,
Mm,
all these like uh, Substack stories or this book is something coming out, this other voice in my head, and it comes so naturally when you have someone else, this character, talking for you. So I think that's like
mm.
something that runs through a lot of what I write.
That makes a lot of sense because you've got I think it was in No Fiction for Straight Men. You've got the that semi-straight essayist style. It's sort of
Mhm.
like the Substack polemic style you've
Right.
got in No Fiction for Straight Men. A fun bit about that essay too is, or essay, like a fiction piece or essay or whatever you want to call it, is that it really kind of blurs the line as to, where's he being serious, where's he being hyperbolic, and so much of the humor is hiding in there. The Shadow Man, I interpreted it. I didn't I didn't think it was inspired by Nietzsche, but now that you say it, that Nietzschean hyperbole is in there. I thought of it as like internet masculinity hyperbole, but you are both work. Yeah, you being possessed by a certain character or voice and going from there makes
Yeah,
sense. That's
that's where I shine when there is something kind of taking over, and I try to write once a week for Substack.
mm,
But if I don't get a moment like that where that voice comes to me, I have to go and draw from the bucket of stuff I have and edit it down. Uh, because yeah, I'll have like when the Raft came, it was just nonstop. It wouldn't shut off,
mm,
and it
mm.
just kept coming. Um, and I love those moments when they happen. And sometimes I have to kind of force it to happen and put myself in a extreme state of mind. But to where that floodgate opens up and that the voice comes out and starts saying really, really silly things.
But how do you force that to happen?
Just get really stressed out sometimes. That happens a lot. I'll get really stressed out and then I'll have this kind of breakthrough and this catharsis and this all this stuff. I mean, these are all things, that you have to kind of push down in your day-to-day life. And if enough of that builds up, it'll just come vomiting out of you.
mm, mm. And bring on the next great novel by driving on the wrong side of the freeway.
Right. Or don't
Yeah,
pay certain
140 k's an
bills.
hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't pay your taxes for a few years.
Wait for it. Yeah. Wait for it.
So are there voices that you're currently experimenting with, or do they just appear and you follow them? You're not experimenting and trying to develop them over time.
No, no, they just come out. Yeah. Um, or like images that stuck out to me, or feelings or eras or you know those sorts of things. They come out as a voice,
Mm.
or a fandom for something will come out as a voice.
The fandom aspect's very funny because you do have there are a bunch of jokes in the Raft based on political fandoms, which
Yeah,
is, I don't know if it's always been a thing. I haven't really looked into it, but certainly the internet is a great place for political fandoms to arise. Because in the Raft, you've got a number of number of political fandoms involved, very central to the lives of particularly of Jimmy and Jimmy. Is it Billy, little
something
Billy,
like that.
and their father,
Yeah,
um,
Mark David Anthony.
Mark David, is looking up at them from hell.
Yes.
Um, I guess you kind of already mentioned that you spend a bunch of time on YouTube looking at these political people, but what about them do you find inspiring for writing this sort of thing? I agree. There is something fascinating about people who make a particular political tract or series of beliefs into their personality as something distinct from like a political agitator. Like, say, someone like Vladimir Lenin, I wouldn't consider a member of a political fandom. He was a
Mm.
political operative. But on the internet, you'll get like Hassan Piker, who's, I think, like a member of a political fandom. I wouldn't consider him a political actor in the same way as Lenin. But what is it about those people that you think is so magnetic? It's so hard to look away from them, despite the fact that you can see that a lot of the time they're complete charlatans.
Yeah. No, I mean they've it's very toxic. It's all very toxic. It's all very addictive.
Mm.
Um, but it's also there's a euphoric sense, you get from hearing someone say something you agree with in a way that you would put it. So maybe, and then seeing someone, berated who has an idea you disagree with.
Mm.
And that's a lot of what it is, I think. And it definitely captured me. I mean, politics wasn't something I was so big on investigating, except like kind of conspiracy stuff that I thought was just fun to listen to. But after 2020 and COVID, and just seeing this kind of this bleakness uh, towards the future, and looking into like, well, who's behind this and who's behind that, and wanting to know all this stuff. And it kind of transported me into this very toxic uh, online political realm, and it's every year it's like I just want to, you say, all right, I'm not going to turn on any more of that stuff, not going to listen to any more of these people argue, and I can't look away. And so that gets into my writing and into what I do. But I try and I some of the beliefs I have, I recognize are silly and possibly wrong, and that, well, everything could be wrong. Every belief you have, you might change in a few years or something. So I'm kind of making fun of myself too, as I make fun of the other people who engage in this as well. But that was like what I was saying about people, crash and burn, that sort of stuff. That's the palate cleanser. That's when you see the stuff that transcends politics and
Mm.
people going off in their tribes and stuff. Is you watch a soul sacrificed on the altar of the public spectacle, and their ashes,
Yeah, is this
cover us
Rene
all, and we
Girard or
rub
Georges
them.
Bataille of
Yeah.
online of online political personalities?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, but it's a really tragic thing for the people whose lives are affected by these irresponsible e-celebs. But they do us a big service in being that, kind of sacrificial lamb. You know, I think.
Yeah,
Do you know about this guy? What if alt history?
I yeah, years ago, I think I watched a few videos of his about, I don't even remember, and I remember they were fairly pedestrian, like alternate history hypotheticals. Then I forgot about him. Then I like it just popped up on my like YouTube recommended videos, like all of this it wasn't completely saying, incel rising now, but it seemed pretty, it seemed directionally on that, and I thought that was funny. And then I heard that he started talking to demons and stuff.
Oh yeah, no. Okay, so the incel revolution and all that was pretty fun.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
That was pretty funny. But then, yeah, the thing, he uploaded I think it was 6 hour long episodes, or these YouTube things, where he goes into this insane just mental breakdown. And he says he started this cult called the Order of the Crimson Dragon, and he talked to Odin, and he talked to Jesus, and Odin told him that he
Damn.
had to write down a list of every girl he's ever gooned to. And yeah, you gotta
Fuck.
watch it sometime. He took it down himself for some reason, but some other people have been uploading it, and it's a wild journey he takes you on through his life and what he may have made up in his life or believes is real.
Mm.
But it's that's a spectacular um, self-destruction. And then what's amazing is he's just come back recently and put out a video without addressing it at all. And that's the resiliency of the human spirit.
I guess it's a natural progression because I remember from. It seems like in all the videos I watched of his, he will reference the fact that he seems to have been the same age for a number of years, somewhere in his early 20s, and
Yeah.
despite his youth, he knows a huge number of CEOs and extremely high value men. So
Yes.
I guess it's a natural progression to go from knowing every Fortune 500 CEO to knowing Odin personally. Like
Yes.
that feels like personal development to me.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I
God chooses certain people to deliver his message. And it's always, we can never tell exactly who it will be, but when they come and they let us know, we have to listen.
yeah, you've got to listen. You want to be an early adopter.
Yes.
Yeah, there's I guess it's the implosion is where things like political disagreements or any sort of I hesitate to call online political fandom disagreements intellectual, but some sort of systematic disagreement between people where all of that collapses and everyone can be unified in the spectacle of self-immolation. It's the scapegoat mechanism bringing together communities online.
Right. Yeah. No, like the destiny thing, like all politics go out the window when you watch someone cross that line and
With the
become,
destiny thing,
yeah.
is there more to it than a video of him getting his willy sucked? Or
Yeah.
because that, of course, a number of my friends sent me that like a video or a screenshot of it as censored, so I had to click on it and see him with a dick in his mouth for the 10th time.
Well, see, he built up his whole shtick so that something like he couldn't be hurt by something like that because he was very open about, stuff like that. What got him was that he was sharing videos like that with other people who didn't realize they were being videoed, allegedly. um so we'll see what comes out. There's some lawsuits and things like that, and it's just, yeah, when you have that much power and that much and you're online that long, and you have all these little groups, Discord people, it's like you got to unplug when you're at that level, because or at least like slow down a little bit on the gooning, because that just seems like an inevitability. At some point you're going to just think you're untouchable, and then talk to the wrong person, do the wrong thing. And I feel like, and maybe he is a bit of a piece of shit to begin with too, but yeah, it seems like that was something bound to happen, that bound to catch up with him eventually.
Mm. Yeah, you would expect someone would object to that, especially if you're distributing it on the internet. Um, the point of it is that it widely distributes information.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. It looks pretty bad for him right now, but I am like wondering, when you've seen this happen to enough internet people, oftentimes, and someone like him, I think especially, he's going to be able to bounce back from it, and it will be like a little thing people could bring up in debates and stuff. But unless the extent of it that they uncover in the courts and everything is just really egregious,
Mm.
I can see his people continuing to support him.
Yeah, if he's not Jeffrey Epstein too.
Yeah. I don't know. Could Epstein have come back from what he did? I don't know. if he
if he were just a humble streamer, maybe if his seeming intelligence community connections made it so that he was probably always going to accidentally hang himself when all of the cameras around him stopped working.
right, right. No, and he did have a period too, I think, where he was found out, but he just kind of pushed through, and then I think that's when he befriended like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, because the stuff was already kind of out, and then but
Mm.
it got kind of, so he was trying to
Was that
rise
when
above.
Bill Gates kept calling him and when asked about it said that it was for marital advice?
I mean, well, he must not have had good marital advice because I think they split up.
Yeah, they got
Uh,
divorced. I guess that's what happens when you go to Jeffrey Epstein for advice on your marriage.
or maybe they split up because Jeffrey couldn't give him the good advice anymore.
Maybe, yeah, maybe by pursuing Epstein, we actually split up the Gates' marriage and we shall
Right.
hang our heads in shame.
Yeah. But I don't know. Um
Yes, so I didn't feel like The Raft was a particularly internet book. And I say that, not quite sure how to describe an internet book, but there are certain books you read and they feel extremely online. I didn't get that impression from The Raft, but hearing you talk about the things that that sort of occupy mental bandwidth, I'm beginning to see how you can get to the sort of absurdity of The Raft from there. I guess there's the character of V who could be seen as a very very internet leftist. Although I've met people in real life somewhat
mhm.
like him. But what do you think actually makes jokes land on that subject of absurdity? Because you've got a few different techniques that you really hammer in The Raft, like bringing in completely absurd situations, the absurd mixing of metaphors. I forget if it's in The Raft or another thing you wrote. Someone getting in trouble with the police for gambling under the influence.
Mm,
You're just
yeah. That was Billy Madison too.
that's right. Yeah, you do like your shock humor. Billy Madison too had a lot of that. A lot of increasingly absurd racial stereotypes that
You know
you
what's
just
funny
you
about
just
that
keep pushing.
story?
Yeah.
I never saw Billy Madison one.
I was wondering if that was true or not. It's a very good way to open up Billy Madison too. But yeah, I but do you come to these particular techniques having read things that you find funny and thinking, oh, I'm going to reproduce that? Do you try to refine them, or are these things that you, I guess, with a lot, like with a lot of your humor that you've set up till now, you just come upon when you're drafting stuff and just pursue like that?
Yeah, yeah, it really is just what I'm, laughing about in my head as I'm writing it and as I'm reading it. And I have a friend too that I've been friends with for a long time, and he's the only other person that has that understands like the sense of humor I have, like interpersonally.
Mm.
And yeah, we follow a lot of the same YouTube stuff, same sort of stuff, um but it's this kind of sense of humor that just kind of, I don't know, only exists between me and this friend. But I don't know where I'm going with that exactly, but I think that kind of built on it too, this thing that me and him kind of would text back and forth about, our own kind of lingo, our own kind of jokes. And in this book, it doesn't, there's some of that in there, but we were working on one together. That's actually was my first project when I started writing again, was a book. It was going to be called The Call of 311. And it was going to be about the societal collapse and like a race war. and the band 311 kind of trying to solve the world's problems. And it was a lot more heavily internet um, inspired, and just a lot of lingo, a lot of kind of inside jokes you'd only know if you watched way too much of this stuff. But I kind of, I dialed it back, a lot for these projects. But I like to slip it in every once in a while, a little
Hmm.
bit of that stuff. And I would really like to collaborate with him on something and maybe put that book out sometime. But we wrote the whole thing, and it was really big and very dense, full of things people I don't think would get. So, but I might put that out sometime. But that was like the most concentrated internet, kind of in joke thing that I've produced. So we'll see. Maybe that'll come out in some ways soon. I mean, he put a lot of work into it, and I feel
Hmm.
bad not doing anything with it yet. But but yeah, a lot of the humor in there too is kind of developed just between me and this friend of mine who is on the same wavelength.
So is it potentially just completely impenetrable to anybody who's not you or this friend?
Right, because we also share, like, we there are jokes about TED Klein, but also about like we were talking about, like just kind of super niche internet stuff. And But then also mixing in like um yeah, just is pretty impenetrable, I think. I don't know, maybe I'll send it to you sometime and you could tell me if you get what's going on for most of it, because it's so dense with that stuff.
I guess the thing with that sort of hyper specific niche internet humor is one, the impenetrability, but two, a lot of it ages very rapidly because these things tend to move on quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas something, I don't know, something like the Raft, that's not really a danger because
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Thanks for saying that too. I think this will be read hundreds of, if not thousands of years in the future, and still resonate the same way.
yeah, yeah. After World War III just glasses the planet's surface. The future
Yeah,
alien civilization landing on Earth will find the Raft as the last artifact, the last piece of evidence for human inhabitation of Earth.
and it will make so much sense.
Yeah, yeah. They. I do like the idea of an alien species reading, especially the latter parts of the Raft, and taking it completely literally. The I get I there are bits I want to quote, but I want people listening to experience them for themselves. I have to restrain myself. In terms of publishing it too, you've it's self-published, is it, or is it through a press?
Yeah,
'Cause-
it's I put it under a press called Fun and Games.
mm,
Just because I think it looks gooder when you have a press,
mm,
when you have like a publisher thing on it. So I created this fake publishing company, Fun and Games, and I might put the next one out under that title as well.
yeah, because it's too spicy to get published by a conventional publishing house. There are a number of jokes, like yeah, the name of their dog, which I just actually got me to laugh out loud because I just wasn't expecting that. It caught me off guard. There are just a bunch of things that I think are too funny, but probably a bit too spicy for a conventional publisher to
Yeah,
touch
and
this,
that's
which is
really
a
what
shame.
got me into writing again, was just the lack of that in modern literature. Just it's so afraid to touch anything vaguely offensive, or and it's so uncomfortable, reading modern horror, and how they have to slip in, certain, you know, virtue signaling about this or that topic, and just complete avoidance, of other topics, or bringing them up in a way where it's very clear what the author's stance is on something.
Mm.
Even in extreme horror, which is a genre where people describe graphic mutilation and sexual violence and all this sort of stuff, and they still have to, like, there's certain topics that they can't touch, and I think that's so funny to me,
Mm. Mm.
it's like, and I think that's what sometimes inspires me too, and I can't go too far down that route, because it would also get like, just like, oh, you're just saying those things to say those things. And maybe I do, am, guilty of that sometimes as well. But that's part of the fun of it for me, is it's like there's all these new taboos, that you can't put in things. Um and I just, I want to put those things in there to kind of shake people out of this tension. I think artists feel that you can't say this or that word, or you can't just leave something on the table without having a sign in front of it that says, I'm really against this thing.
Mm. Mm. Which just kills humor.
Yeah.
It also just I feel being treated like an idiot as a reader kills humor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a that reactionary mindset or posture, which I definitely feel of. Just how I stopped. When I was probably in my late teens, calling things retarded, because just kind of naturally I decided it wasn't the nicest thing to do. But then after being told for long enough that I wasn't allowed to do it, I started really wanting to call stuff retarded again.
Yeah.
It's like, no, now I want. I didn't want to do it before. Now I do.
No,
Um,
that's actually very relatable, because I think, yeah, like I am, not an evil person. I'm sensitive to the people around me, and I don't want to make them, feel bad, or demean, people for traits that they can't change about themselves and stuff. But yeah, like you said, when all these other people start ganging up on you, and or banging over your head, don't say that, and they're often the people that aren't the things that they're protecting, you
mm.
know. um yeah, it's just like, well, wait a second, now you make me want to say it. And I don't know if that morally justifies doing it, but it sure, makes me want to do it. Just to piss
Yeah.
those people off, not the people, um not someone who is retarded. Like, it would just be to piss off the people that are morally policing you.
Mm. It is something very fun about. I'm not entirely sure what to call it. Independent literature. I heard someone calling it backyard literature, or backyard films, self-published literature. It's fun because you actually do have that sense of anything can happen again. Because
Yeah.
there's definitely a cordon sanitaire drawn around a lot of things that actually can be funny in more conventional publishing. But once you get out into the Amazon KDP verse, suddenly all that stuff's back on the table.
Oh yeah, there's a book that I got on there. I mean, there's lots of books I like on there. Independent authors like F. Gardner, G. Farmer, the guy who wrote Behead All Satans, who I always
Uh,
forget his
um,
name.
it's either NMN or MNM-DR. I
Yeah,
always get it the wrong way around.
that was an early influence on me, definitely. Like, I mean, I would see that cover around on the lit boards, and then I bought it, and I was reading. I was just like, oh my god, like this breaks through so many different barriers. of what you'd expect when you're opening up a book. And that was like, yeah, hugely influential on me. And then the pages of just illustrations towards either the
There
middle
were
or
a
the
lot of them
end,
too.
that was amazing.
Yeah, that was actually that was one of the parts of the book that I did find very funny. There's a section where I think he's writing, I forget if it's actually the narrator or it's someone, like the narrator's quoting someone else, but there's this description satirizing self-important, over-intellectualized descriptions of pieces of art, and then following that up with like 100 really really childish looking line drawings was that was a good one. That landed, and it's the sort of thing you can probably only get away um with a self-published work, or if you are just so famous that you can say to a publisher, look, there are going to be just 100 shit illustrations in this book, and
Right.
you're gonna have to suck it up.
There was this other one I want people to be aware of too that I got on that was self-published. Um, it's this book by someone named B.L. Overman, and it's called The Amazonian Uteroboscis, and it's a
Let me
parasitic.
write these down because I'll put these in the show notes. So BM Overman.
Oh, B.L. Overman.
Yeah. Can you repeat the title of that?
It's called The Amazonian Uteroboscis, and it's an erotica book, but it's about a woman who gets infected by a parasite, this nasty coiled worm that gets inside her lady parts and just makes her just extremely horny. And it made me squirm reading it. It's crazy, but it's such a good book, and I feel like it's one of those ones you wouldn't see on the shelves. And I don't know, that comes to mind as like that's one of those ones I always try and share with people that might not be aware of it. But yeah, that book just makes me cringe reading it. But I think other people might goon reading it. A certain set of people.
Yeah, I guess edging's in the eye of the beholder. Um,
Yeah.
it is. It's something that's very, very. Really, I find it to be something extremely optimistic. Just how much talent there is floating around, and I guess print on demand technology is great, or just sharing stuff over the internet, because you can have very odd books that probably no one would fund or
Yeah.
put money behind, but now you can actually have them. And sure, a problem is you've got to wade through a lot of shit to get to the gems, but there are real gems floating around out there.
Yeah, you guys cover a lot of them. I've gotten a lot of books on my to read list, from stuff you guys have covered. I love that stuff, like just the oddball thing, some eccentric, is like their unique vision, that could have never passed through the hands of a major publisher.
Mm,
And like you
yeah,
said, it's like the I mean, the stuff today is so formulaic, and you know what you're going to get because it's been passed through so many executive hands, and it has to fit like a or Brandon Sanderson kind of plot line, or whatever his techniques are. It has to go through these motions, and it's just so nice to just get something and have spelling errors in it,
yeah,
have like a weird, awkward way of speaking, and just the stuff that makes stuff where you can just get a really good idea, clear picture of the author, and what their deal is. And I'm very drawn to that kind of material.
mm. I'm trying to think if there were actually any spelling errors or weird, just like fucked up formatting in the Raft, but I don't think there was actually. It's a very clean book. Of course, so there are certain things that the spelling is going to be weird, but it feels very intentional because of the voice being employed. There's
Yeah, I
especially
think that's
certain sections where
good.
you start like fucking up the reader's internal voice by like misspelling things or really clumsily phrasing things.
Right. Yeah. No, I saw that in there's other books that do that well too, but it's not like a conscious effort for when they do it, and when I do it, it can be a conscious effort. Actually, it's all intentional. So if you do find any errors in the book, or if there's a sentence that doesn't sound right, it was all intentional.
Yeah. Something I also appreciated was your approach to advertising this book, including your 100% real emails of support from Stephen King. I think there was one from Trent Reznor. Brando Sando also wrote one.
Well, I don't reveal the names of who did it. I think you can tell from the writing in them. You can get an idea who it is, but I don't want to out those people, because this is as there is some spicy parts in this book, and if someone like Stephen King were to really enjoy it, that could really hurt his career.
Mm, mm. There was also the rejection letter you published on Substack. I think you didn't get a publishing contract because you're not on an H-1B visa.
Right. Yeah, that hurt, and that got me
Mm.
radicalized instantly.
Yeah, so we can expect the Raft 2 with far more right wing radicalism.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have other projects in the pipeline at the moment that you're working on? Things that are ready enough to talk about, or are they all too amorphous and you can't really say anything firm about them yet?
Well, I've been getting really excited about this one I am working on now. And it's kind of like John Grisham inspired, uh, a courtroom drama. Um, and I think I really shine in the courtroom, and I have a good idea of what the legal system is like without having looked into it much. So I want to write the next Pelican Brief, or The Firm, or those John Grisham books in the thrift stores.
Mm.
They're everywhere, and I just look at the covers of them, and I think that I know how to write this book.
Have you
So
have
I've
you
got
read the books, or is this purely off the covers of the books plus your view of the legal system from the outside?
yeah, no, all it's from the feel of the book, the smell
Yeah,
of it, the
yeah.
pages when you kind of flip through it. It kind of, you can just sense, how to I can sense how to write this book. So this
Mm.
next one is going to be, right now I'm thinking of calling it The Juror, right? Because it's a courtroom drama, and it's flowing so naturally, and I didn't even realize how much I knew about the legal process until I started writing it.
Mm, mm. The law degree of watching episodes of Law and Order at like 2 a.m.
Oh yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
even have to do that. Like, you just, maybe clips from certain trials and stuff kind of inspire me. Um, but we all know right and wrong, and I think this book is gonna take that idea and flip it on its head.
Mm. It might take us beyond right and wrong, or even beyond good and evil, you might say.
You get it.
Yeah, yeah, I see where you're coming from now.
You get it.
You're going to be the Nietzsche 2.0.
Yeah, no, this is I'm thinking this is going to be even more successful than The Raft, The Juror.
I I'm looking forward to it, and if you want to promote it, you can come back on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for having me on. It's really an honor to be on here. I love your guys' podcast
Well, thank you.
and all the cool books you bring to my attention and to the attention of people around the world.
I think people around the world need to know more about Moon People by Dale Courtney.
Yes.
That's what we're here for.
No, I have a fascination with banned books, we'll say, or
Mm.
books that, because yeah, when you're looking into like stuff you're allowed to read or not read and things like that, or and you actually look into like what you can and can't read, there's some stuff out there that'll put you on a list. And I think I was looking, for some like discussion about one of those books or something, and I came across you guys. And and but you guys aren't like politically one way or the other, and I'm not really either, but I have a fascination with this is knowledge, that's too that you can't handle,
Mm. Mm.
um so I think that's, well, actually no, it wasn't that spicy. Actually, what I found you through Evola, who I was like looking into, and you guys
He's probably
covered, I
too
think.
weird to get you put on a list.
Huh?
He's probably too weird to get you put on a list because when you read his books and realize that a lot of it is actually just an autistic discussion of, like, I don't know, Hindu sex magic.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. No, he's not one on the that'll put you on the list. I was talking. Yeah, you guys haven't done the Turner Diaries, right?
oh, we've done that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe it
yeah.
was that one. Did you know that there's another one, I think by the same guy, called like Serpent's Walk or something?
Yeah, we've been asked to do that. I don't really have the stomach to do too many of those kinds of books because they're all the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of that scene from, from the Turner
But
Diaries.
it's got lasers in it.
Yeah, that
Space lasers.
is that the one where the front cover it's like it's red with a giant swastika on it and some like proud nationalist socialist like spacemen with laser guns?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
want
the
to
one?
know who did those covers, because those covers are so stark.
Yeah. And of course it's black, white and red.
Yeah. I think I tried to reference that in one of the scenes, but I couldn't quite get it right. But there's like this old sign that I would see put up in windows of houses that says like, forget the dog, beware of owner, and there's this gun pointed at you.
Mm,
Um, the 6-shooter pointed at you, and it's just so stark and ugly.
mm,
And
mm,
I think about those books that I was just mentioning, and they just have this very stark, like unsettling cover and aura about them, and it's fascinating. I mean, if you look at it as like a how-to manual, that's one thing, but just from an artistic side and something put out that's just like would be untouchable, by any publisher. I don't know, there's something about that aesthetic that's just very mesmerizing to me.
mm. I guess it's probably just it's actually I'm sure the motivation is similar to what we were talking about earlier, where just being told you're not allowed to call something retarded or gay for long enough and intensely enough just makes you start wanting to do it. And I think similarly with these sort of books, just being told repeatedly you can't read them because reading them will turn you into a Nazi
Right.
makes me it's just being intransigent. Hearing that and going, oh no, now I want to read the Turner Diaries.
Well, see, that goes back to Lovecraft, because all of his characters are people that, not all of them, but a lot of them are people that there's some hidden, forbidden information,
Mm,
that they're searching for, and they just are so obsessed with it. And I think it's a kind of a similar thing to like banned books or banned videos or banned speech, or like we're talking about. It's like there's a pull when another human tells you not to do something. There's an innate thing in us or in some weird people that make them want to see it even more. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So yeah, but are those
Not
books,
apples, yes, copies of the Turner Diary.
but are those books, good? No. Will you feel good reading them? Probably not. But
Yeah.
they've built up this aura around them that, yeah, when you're in that headspace where you just want to find all these, forbidden books and stuff like that, that like it will draw you to it. It will make, you'll just like, I need to see, what's so bad, what's so
Yeah,
horrible
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Would that book radicalize people now or get them on that side? Like
I
I don't know.
suspect you have to already be inclined that way to really get something out of the Turner Diaries. Because
Right.
I didn't think much of it. Like, sure, there's the shock value of of them breaking into like some store and shouting slurs and attacking anyone who's not white. And so, like, I don't know, you read that and initially you're like, oh, this is not what I'm used to. But that shock wears off pretty quickly, and it's not enough to sustain a
Right.
novel.
Yeah, no, and it'd be mean to do that. I don't think that'd be nice to do. So reading that, you feel like, ugh, yucky reading it, but yeah, I think it's more just about, yeah, the aura around it. Um, I don't know. Yeah. Uh, but also it's like, there is an element of that we were talking about where it's like you can put like being able to put characters that do or say bad things in a book without having to put a sign up that says these are bad guys, these guys have bad thoughts. Like, I don't know, because there is those sorts of things in the world. And yeah, it makes you treat you like a child, that you can't come to your own conclusion that, yeah, it's bad to do that, yeah, that's mean, yeah, that's evil, that you have to have someone remind you that, like, that's what, I don't know. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but
One
yeah,
thing I
it's
was
like,
wanting to
do we
ask.
need a warning that like the people in this book are bad you know what I mean? And maybe some people do, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe at least for me, it kills the enjoyment of books if I feel like I'm just being lectured to, not even necessarily by the author, but by whoever put the book together and gave it to you.
Yeah.
One thing I was wanting to ask about was various online writing communities, because you're pretty active on Substack, but you've had a bit to do with the 4chan lit boards as well. Are there other online groups of writers, readers, or in the case of lit, people who pretend to read, that you've been part of or enjoyed?
No, that's about it, really. Yeah, I was just going on the lit board and seeing. I was kind of disappointed that there weren't more people shilling their stuff on the board, because that's probably frowned upon there.
Mm,
But I would want to see what these people are writing, what they're thinking and what they're putting out there. So, and I did like make, friends of people in that. And so it kind of brought me into like, uh, exposed to other authors who are kind of on the same wavelength. But it's not just people who want to like push the envelope in certain ways too. I've noticed, I
mm,
was expecting more, very like content that was like very reactionary out of people from that community. But there's a lot of people that just have, genuine, um, well, they have talent and they have stuff that I don't know why it wouldn't get published in a mainstream publication sometimes. Like that one, Improvidence. You've covered that one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. By David Herod. That's a really good one. If
Yeah, and that I don't know, was there anything in that that wouldn't be, put out by a mainstream publisher? I mean,
mm,
I thought, yeah, and it was really good, and I think it's a cool community. Um, but yeah, that's basically. But there are other people too who put out stuff like ARX-Han,
yeah,
the one
yeah, yeah.
Incel.
That was
But
great.
that's like a really well written book, but because it doesn't have those warnings on it, like this is a, and I mean, like you can tell from reading it, this is a disturbed
Mm.
individual, but there's not like, it doesn't whack you over the head. You know what I'm saying with morality?
It was
Um,
actually probably one of my few criticisms of Incel is I think it does have some disclaimers. Um,
oh,
in the book, I think so. There's certainly one about suicide. I th- I'm not sure, so I won't say this categorically, but I do think there are other disclaimers too. Um, I thought which just kind of make the book a bit weaker because I feel like if you have the smallest amount of social intelligence, you know that Anon is a pretty disturbed guy.
mm,
Um, yeah, and I just thought it was odd because the rest of the book is very confident that sort of at the last minute Han blinked and put in that disclaimer.
okay. I might have missed that in my reading of it. Um, but yeah, because it feels uncomfortable, I'm sure
Mm,
too, to write something that's that against the against what's acceptable in modern times.
mm,
I think that makes it really tricky for people. They will self censor sometimes. It is a great book, but
yeah, yeah, well worth reading.
yeah, I just missed that part. But yeah, it's hard. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure not to do, not to put a little bit of some sort of like a little wink and a nod or some pressure, like,
Mm.
okay, this is not a good guy. But yeah, eh,
That is a funny thing about the lit community because Substack is its own beast as well. But most of the lit board actually seems not only tame, but to people who aren't really interested in arguing about theology, probably pretty boring.
mm,
It's I don't, there's something actually very special about that of having this place where people who are really wanting to argue about scholastic philosophy and talk about how much they love Moby Dick can go
uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of that, and I
get
think there
heated
was,
about that.
yeah, that part I can't really get into as much, but I more so I like the people who are taking risks, um,
Mm,
and doing things that push the envelope or push back on censorship and things like that. And I found, a lot of good writers who do that, but I do wish they would do it more and get more out there. And not just like in
mm,
a political way, but in like, yeah, just because you're not being chained down by trying to go the normal publishing route, and you'll have a scarlet letter on your name, whatever name you're writing under. Yeah, take more risks and put more stuff in there that wouldn't be polite to put in a regular book. And
mm.
um, a lot of that, is about what's politically correct, obviously, but I think there's other ways too that you can subvert the norms, um, in what you're doing, and there's ways you could put things out that are just so, yeah, they're unpublishable, but aren't just like, oh, I put a racial slur here or something like that.
Mm. Yeah, well, there's that kind which is it's sort of that shock humor, which I guess if you do it well, can be funny. It's just not going to last long, and it gets old so quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know the ways in which it can actually be funny are getting more and more limited because it not only gets old within the context of a single piece of writing, but it within the context of basically everyone who's ever tried to employ those tactics. So it's pretty hard to do well.
Yeah, and
And
it's
people with
yeah.
talent probably don't rely on that much.
Yeah, and it's interesting because then you'll read books where that wasn't, such a problem to put those kinds of words in there. Like I was reading Heart of Darkness again
Mm.
recently and all that. And obviously, he has a lot of unacceptable terms for people of a certain region.
Yeah, well, there's even
But,
the book by Conrad as well, The Friendly Man of the Narcissus.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that one's pretty spicy too. But it only is because the times have changed and now those words aren't acceptable to put in a book, whether or not the character is you're supposed to like them or not. So
Mm.
that's a case where it's like it became shocking with time.
Yeah, he became edgier while he was dead
Yeah.
without meaning to be. Yeah. Other things that have come out of Lit that I was impressed by, once again, just by the talent on display, has been Minimag is a remarkable amount of effort
Yes.
and is just chugging along.
Yes.
Unreal too. I've just interacted with Unreal a lot less, but so I'm not talking about it less because I don't like it. I'm just less familiar. But Minimag is remarkable because how long has it been going for?
I don't even know. I think in 2020 I first come across it on
Mm.
Lit.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah, man, that guy's like sense of uh organizing the layout and all that sort of stuff, graphic design. I'm just like, how does he do this every week?
yeah. It just keeps going. Is that Alex Prestia?
Something like
I
that.
think I think that's his name. My apologies if I got it wrong, but yeah, I'm consistently impressed by how much talent there is out there, and particularly if people who are just doing it because they can, they for the love of the game. There's something very very special about that.
Yes, definitely.
So you've mentioned BL Overman, um, MNMDR or NMN-DR again. I get the letters jumbled up. You also mentioned F. Gardner. Are there other authors that you're really enjoying and want to shout out?
Oh, um, let's see. Oh, they're not self-published people, but I've really been enjoying lately. I have this book, and it's called Keller Memento, and it's a collection of stories by David H. Keller. And that guy, he rules in terms of like the old weird tale form of writing and stuff. Like he's really good. And I guess he was a gynecologist by day and then a weird fiction author by night. But I really like his
The two
stuff.
would go together.
Right? Yeah. No, he put out manuals on gynecology and like women's sex drive and stuff like that. But then he also has like his crazy stories and stuff. I'm trying to remember it. There's one like the killer termites or something like that. That's the kind of stuff I go for. A really good, like over the top monster story,
Mm, mm.
Also, Joe R. Lansdale. I'm reading a collection of his stuff right now called Bumper Crop. And he is great for his short horror stories and stuff. I think that's where horror really shines, is in the short story format.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because quite often, it's such a it's so trite to say now, but so much of effective horror is what you don't see. And it's, I think, just technically much easier to maintain or sustain that in a short work.
Yeah, yeah, longer like horror novels. I'm just like, come on, like it's just it goes on forever. Stephen
Mm,
King, his books just get so much into these. They take these off roads so that about these different characters, and I'm not reading a drama. Like I want to see things start getting unsettling, stay unsettling, and then something horrific happens, but he just takes so long to get there. But
mm.
people love it. So
Yeah, I mean, in his defense, he seems to be out of his mind on cocaine when he's writing a number of his novels.
his best ones, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If he's being a bit too long-winded, it might just be the cocaine talking.
Oh, you need to check out his story, Lawnmower Man, if you haven't.
What's Lawnmower Man about?
Okay, so you know the Cobson meme, the guy with the soy facing, the Cobson guy.
Mm.
I don't know if you know him, but he's like a meme of like some maybe like a Redditor or something being outraged or something. That's based on the movie Lawnmower Man. Now, the movie Lawnmower Man is completely different from the Lawnmower Man short story it's supposedly based on. And the original story, that was one I read when I was pretty young, and I it stuck with me for so long because it's just so bizarre. It's like something uh that I would want to write. It's just so over the top, like just, and then it's over. And that is a great story by him. But the movie is hilariously different, like completely different. And I try to imagine how you could make an actual movie adaptation of that story and stretch it out for that long. And I cannot imagine how that would go. But it's in that collection, The Night Shift, and I really recommend people read that story just for how fucking absolutely bonkers it is.
Lawnmower Man.
And there is a lawnmower man in it, so it's not a bait and switch.
Oh, good, good. it's,
You
it's not a
get what
metaphor
you
then.
pay for. Yes.
So, once more before we finish up, you just go through your projects, where people can find you online, and so on.
Yeah, just buy the book, The Raft, enjoy it. Um, and I have a Substack as well, Phil Roth, on. I don't know what the website URL is, but you don't need that. You just type in Phil Roth, and you might get Philip
Mm.
Roth, and he's a guy that's on the people should check out. He wrote Portnoy's Complaint, but
Mm.
that's not me. So
He's
I'm
the
just Phil
the
Roth.
less celebrated and less well known Phil
Yeah,
Rudd.
he definitely deserves his flowers. At some point, I hope he gets the recognition that I've gotten
Mm. Mm.
at some point.
For writing entire novels based around masturbation jokes.
Yes, yes. But no, yeah, just the Substack, my book, and then look out for future projects on the horizon. Once I get a lot of free time, then those will come out faster.
Nice. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Links to the Amazon page for the Raft will be in the show notes for this episode if people want to check it out, which I really encourage them to. It's
Yeah,
very
shout
funny,
out to
really
Two
short.
Keys Mag and
Yeah, yeah.
Tales of the Unreal. And Ogden Nesmer, he's got some good stuff out too.
Yeah, what's his?
And
He does have a new book out. What is it?
Silkworm.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but his one, the Eggplant, is really good.
Yeah, I
Definitely
should
check
read
that one
Eggplant.
out too.
Yeah, I'll put that in.
But yeah,
Oh,
thanks for having me. It was really nice chatting with you, and yeah, I love the podcast. So it's an honor being on this show.
thanks very much, and thanks for writing the Raft. Thanks for coming on. It was great fun talking to you, and to
Yeah.
listeners. See you next time.
All right.